If you're actually doing better than all the other women in the group, they'll kick you out. Yeah.
That is me.
Anxiety 100.
Who died? Fuck yeah. Bang. What the fuck was that? Everything, no matter how good or bad in our life, can be used as fuel. Dealing with addiction has been like really difficult. I've been consumed with anger.
Like every month is just as hard as the last.
That's the sort of stress that will eat you alive.
The multiple miscarriages, like everything's hard. I'm taking control of this situation and I'm going to be in the power.
You're one person against the universe. You are fucked.
What can I learn that could possibly give me an extra $100 a week?
If you can start in a recession, then you can fucking thrive when the sun's shining.
She
said,
take your shirt off, make sure the baby's on your chest. Oh, Larissa.
we are meaningless in the best way possible.
Maybe you're doing this to be a better mum.
What? Like, what are you talking about? It was night and day. And that's kind of like the power of reframing, I think. Should we talk about the Epstein comment?
It really just shows how out of touch I am with pop culture.
This really, yeah, it does. It does. And to be honest, I'm a little bit upset at myself for not having picked up on it and made a joke about it. So last week,
For context.
Brie and I were talking about celebrities and you know the fact that they've got it harder than a lot of people would think. And you went on to talk about how you've always wanted to create an island for celebrities. And do we want to talk about why that's...
No, that sounds really bad.
Sounds really bad. On the week, because apparently there is a celebrity island.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's just a pedo island.
Yeah. Everyone was there though.
Everyone was there.
Stephen Hawking.
Obviously.
Robert whatever his name is. Junior.
They're all there.
Kennedy.
So to clear things up, we were talking about a celebrity island last week. You weren't talking about that celebrity island.
No,
the Epstein Island.
I was actually having a nice island.
Well, I mean, maybe now they would actually like a nice island.
Yeah, a safe place.
Not to do what they want with anyways.
I just think the reason I was saying it is I feel like what's it called? Like celebrities. I feel that everyone just puts so much pressure on them and they don't realize the pressure that just being a fan and like those crazy girls, like the pressure that they put on one person to perform. It's like even just influencers, like the pressure that the people that follow, like people like that Sophie Gwydlin gets death threats every day just for being a hot mum. Like it's just insane.
What is it though about, and I'm not doing like a stereotype thing here, but it's like there is something with women and like women, like it. I feel like you don't see that as much with like male celebrities or male creators.
Maybe they
or
don't talk about it as
stuff.
enough.
But I mean, you were saying this week that there is like a tribal aspect. If we were to look at like the evolution of this, when women are successful, they don't like that or something like you were saying?
Yeah, so what I was reading in the book, it was like, it's actually in our, it dates back to our ancestors, is in the tribe. If you're actually doing better than all the other women in the group, they'll kick you out.
I mean, that kind
because so women have this complex that they don't ever want to actually look like you're doing you don't ever want to look like you're doing too well because otherwise you'll get kicked out of the group. So that's just like,
I wonder why that's
crazy.
Uniquely
it's
female
more in
thing.
women.
More in women.
It's still in men, definitely, but not as
yeah.
much. Men kind of like thrive off each other and like pump each other up and like, yeah, like where women will tear you down.
Very threatened. Yeah,
they're
very threatened by that. But I think, there's probably an aspect of like, because men will typically resort to violence if there's someone that they don't, like we're talking like ancestrally, but women don't typically resort to violence, but they will, they'll resort to shunning and tearing down and
they do it in such a passive aggressive way, you know, like that's why I think the internet is so bad for some women. Like they feel like behind their keyboard they're so powerful, where in real life if you actually went up to, would you say that to her face? No, like it's horrible.
If you look, I don't really do that, but you've shown me a few times, like especially with people like Sophie Gwydlin or maybe Sarah's Day and stuff like that, and you look at the comments and it's like, Wow.
Yeah.
Like that is mean. That's
Yeah.
mean.
Mean.
Yeah.
And like, it takes like schoolyard bullshit to another level when you're at that level, like, and I just don't really understand. Like, I get that it's a threat thing, but like, just move on.
Why?
Why is your life so sad that you have to do that?
Mm.
Like, it's so
It
weird.
is an interesting thing. But yeah, so we just wanted to address those because we did have a few
Yes.
comments about the Celebrity Island. So we just wanted to clear that up. Isn't that Epstein Island? Like I actually haven't. I had never really. I'd always heard of the Epstein thing. Had never really looked into it too much. Obviously, I've heard more about it this week since the all that stuff's been leaked. It's so crazy.
So crazy. And like, how far do you take it?
In what way?
Like, how does anyone know what happened back then?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, like what do you
Who
believe?
said who? Yeah, like what do you believe?
Well, I was listening to, because I was like, why are there, like, why was Hawking there? Why was that? Because there was a lot of like scientists that went to the island and stuff like that. And I was listening to Huberman on Rogan, and he was saying like the reason that scientists did that in particular, obviously there would be some people that are like genuinely just bad people, but a lot of it is scientists will do anything to get funding for their laboratory so that they can fund the studies that they want to do, and like it's really hard to get funding, so they will do anything. Like they'll go out on a weekend and go to dinners with people that they don't like and not see their family if it just means that they can get some, because they're so passionate about it. So it's like I think a lot of it was that. Whether or not Hawking fell into that category, I don't know, but it's a...
He did cheat on his wife.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
How?
To think that he has the ability to cheat.
Yeah.
Like, pulling the women.
Give enough status to someone even in that condition, and they'll still they'll still do stuff like that. Pretty crazy.
The memes are pretty funny.
Yeah, the memes are good. The memes are good.
Bad situation.
Bad situation. You got to make light of a bad situation.
Yeah,
sometimes
the internet always will.
Yeah. Well, look, today we wanted to talk about something called reframing, and it's something that we've used a lot in in recent years, and we wanted to talk about it today and like share what we've sort of learnt from it, because it's actually been like really helpful for us, and especially in the last couple of years for me in particular, with some things that we might get into today. But yeah, so cognitive reframing, it is actually like a technique that you get from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Not something that I'm an expert in at all. It's just this one sort of technique that we've been using it's been really helpful for us.
Yeah, it's like this secret little superpower that we've been like...
It is a superpower.
Into.
Yeah, absolutely. So cognitive reframing is just when you basically take a situation that you're in and you just look at it in a different light. And I know that sounds like really simplistic, but it's actually a very uniquely human thing. Like we're the only species on the planet that can actually do that, which is like take a situation, look at it through a different lens. And by looking at it through a different lens and a different perspective, it doesn't just change the situation in our head, it changes the situation in our bodies as well, like on a physiological level. Like you can genuinely lower your stress by doing it, you can be happier by doing it. So we wanted to sort of touch on that today because that has been really helpful for us.
Maybe just quickly give one quick example. What do you mean by that?
So a good example is if you're feeling, let's say that you're, a good example for me which is one that I did just the other day. And it was like I was going to the gym and it's like 4 a.m. And as much as I hate to say it, it's like it was leg day. And it's like I know it's a stereotype. It's like, oh, you don't enjoy leg day. But it's like the same as girls don't like doing upper body day. It's the same sort of thing. It's like of all the days, I look forward to it the least. And it's like, it's 4 a.m. and I'm like, God, I'm walking to the gym. I'm like, fuck, I'm just not feeling it today. And then I caught myself and I'm like, well, what if leg day was my favorite day? Like, what if like this is the day of all of the days that I go to the gym that I'm the most excited for? And like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I was just doing this while I was like walking to the gym. And all of a sudden, I could feel my mindset change. I actually found myself starting to get excited to go in there. And that's that, our mental state changing our physical state. Like there's a chemical reaction happening in our bodies at that moment. And I started getting a little bit excited, a little bit of adrenaline going in my system. And I had the best session. And the reason that we call this a superpower is because we have the power to do this in every single situation in our lives. Another good little example is one, I'm quite impatient. Would we both agree with that?
Just a little
And
bit.
sometimes I get into this mode where I'm rushing. I've got this like theoretical clock that's just like ticking in my brain. I just feel like I'm always got to be places. And I found myself, I was just like going into the shops, and when you find yourself like you got like some old lady in front of you, and you go right, they go right, you go left, they go left. And I just found myself getting so frustrated. Like, in my head, like, you don't want to know like this old woman. I'm like, fuck me. And then, boom, I remind myself, I'm like, what if this is just like the perfect opportunity to practice patience? Like, what if, because I'm an impatient person and I want to work on that, this very moment right now, behind this old lady walking into the supermarket, this is the perfect opportunity for me to practice patience and work on it and not be such an impatient person. All of a sudden, I just felt the stress in my body literally dissipate. Like it was just washing away. And it's like, again, it is one of those things, which is why we wanted to do an episode about it. It's like, no, I don't remember it all the time. No, I don't do it every single moment of the day. But when you do it, and when you do remember it, it's a superpower. Because when we are in these situations, and especially like we'll get you know, into a little bit later in the episode, especially when you're going through quite traumatic things in the family and stuff like that, which is a little bit more serious than being stuck behind an old woman walking into Coles. This can be really powerful because obviously stress over a long period of time can obviously be not great for our health. And knowing this sort of thing and understanding and like remembering that you have this superpower at any time can be like so powerful.
And with those emotions, like let's just use the lady as an example in Coles. What do you like when you're walking through and you start to feel that change? It's the neural pathways are changing, right? So you can learn every time just that act of thinking about it, you're creating a new pathway. Because then if you do it one little time, the next time you're going to think of it again. And it's like it's building those little steps, even if it is just the lady at Coles. That's good because then when it does come to something serious in your family, you go, hang on, I can help my own self here.
Yeah,
You know?
it's always just a little rep in the gym. Like that's all it is. It's like, and it is one of those things that the more you do it, the more you think of it. Like another like pretty obvious example, which I think most people will understand, which is like if you are on your way to work and someone just like rear ends you, it's like obviously like we essentially have two options in that in that situation. We can just let it just consume us with rage and ruin our day, our week. For some people, some people get so caught up in these repetitive loops in their head of just like anger, 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 anger. And remembering that every situation that we're in can be reframed as a learning opportunity, as a growth opportunity. And remembering that like we always have that, it's like we have the power to just go like, oh, like that situation sucked, but it's like, but it could have been worse. I could have been really badly injured. We're okay. And it's just like again, it's like we always have the power to, like when we get really angry at situations, like the chemical lifespan of an emotion is only about 90 seconds. So any time that we're angry or whatever for longer than that is a choice. And we always have a choice. We can always choose to take it as a learning opportunity, take it in our stride and just go like, that sucks, but what can we learn from it? Or what could I have done differently or whatever? Or we can stew on it and we become really angry and really bitter.
I think a good way to also, to quickly reframe it is to jump in their shoes. What if the person that rear-ended you just lost their son and they're at the hospital right now and they're on the way there? You know, like it makes you tear up and you're like,
Yeah.
I really don't care if he was on the way to, you know, like he's got to go. Or like, you
Yeah.
know, if he was rude to you even when he did rear-end you and he had nothing to say, maybe he just lost his mum. Like you don't know.
You don't
The
know.
worst case, you know,
Yeah.
like you just have no idea what other people are going through. And people have that toward, they don't understand that towards you too. Like imagine if they had, and you did that to someone and they were compassionate to you, like how much more how much more that would feel nice to you. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's such a Bible study thing, like treat someone as you would like to be treated, but it's like, it's so true.
Yeah, and it all starts with just being like aware of it. And again, it's not the easiest thing to do this. Like it's not. It's so much easier just to get angry. Like that's and just be reactive. Like that's the easiest thing in the world is to just react to everything as we go through life until you're like the typical guy on the, you accidentally pull out in front of someone and it's a complete and utter accident. And
give
the
you
guy's just like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's the embodiment of someone who's just completely reactive and just reacting to their environment and based on their life, their traumas, etc. That's the easy route.
Yeah.
The hard route is taking the high road, learning, like looking at everything as a growth opportunity and adopting that growth mindset. But if you do that, you will be so much more content in your life. You won't let the little things like, not sweating the small stuff, as they say, and you're just less stressed. Like a perfect example of this is, like when we're feeling that stress in our system or like anxiety, like an easy way to reframe anxiety is to determination, like, or to look at, stress or anxiety as like excitement. It's like, like another thing that is funny with humans is like we hate feeling anxious. Like we hate that feeling. Like before you go out and speak in front of like a crowd of people, that's that feeling of like sweaty palms and your like heart's racing and stuff like that. Like we hate that feeling, but we'll go on a roller coaster. Like it's the same chemicals in our body. It's just the frame in which we view it is differently. Now, if someone forced you onto a like zip tied your hands behind your back and forced you onto a roller coaster, that would be different. But if we chose to go on the roller coaster, the chemicals in our body, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the all of that stuff, which is creating that our heart racing, is the exact same as the person who's going to talk in front of 5,000 people that is about to have a panic attack. It's just a different frame. The same with watching scary movies, all of that stuff. The only thing that's different is the frame in which we view it, and just knowing that we always have the opportunity to do that with every situation. And they've shown as well in studies that by viewing, like if you're like, let's look at the person that's about to talk in front of 5,000 people and you're sitting there, you're anxious, your heart's racing and you're like fumbling and you're sort of shaking.
I kind of have that in general.
Yeah, you're. So we did a personality test recently and it like ranked certain things, personality traits, obviously out of 100. And you got anxiety 100.
Every time I get any sort of worry or anything, you just go, anxiety 100.
Who died? Who died? Like the other day, like it's like a thing on our wall fell off and it like just made this huge sound and like it just showed our like the yin and yang of us. Like it was just such a different reaction. You were in the room, I was in the lounge room, and like this thing fell down and just went like bang. And I just looked up. I just went like this. It went bang. I just went, what was that? You went, what the fuck was that? I was like, you scared me more than the poster falling off the wall. I was like, anxiety 100.
Anxiety 100.
Yeah. So what they've shown with people that are in that situation, if you just become aware of the fact, or you let someone know, like in that situation, they're about to go on stage, they're really anxious, and you remind them that these feelings that you're feeling right now, that feeling of anxiousness, that feeling of stress, those feelings, those chemicals in your body right now are there to make sure that you perform at your best. Like if you went out there and you were just as relaxed as you were when you're just like laying on your couch watching Netflix, it's like you're not going to perform at your best. anxiety comes from a place of like fear of the unknown. But if you feel those feelings, that anxiousness, and you're like, hang on, this is like our fight or flight system, making sure that I can survive, making sure that I can thrive and perform at my best. And they've shown that by just letting people know that, they perform about 33% better. Again, it's just the frame in which we view it.
Okay, so if for everyone listening, is there like a framework that you can do, like to get this happening, like in your life?
A framework. The biggest one for me, which has been really helpful, is just looking at everything as a learning opportunity. Like an easy one is like, rather than looking at failure as a bad thing, failure is a learning opportunity. And I find that if you adopt that with almost everything in your life, that's a really good place to start. You know, the reason that I said that this has been such a powerful uh, technique for me in particular is because, not to get too far into it, but like dealing with a certain situation in my family, dealing with addiction has been like really difficult over these last few years, like really, really, really hard. And I don't think that if I hadn't learnt this technique of looking at everything through the lens of a growth mindset, what can I learn from this? Maybe coming at it from a more empathetic standpoint to the person that is going through this, that is whatever. I don't think I would have dealt with it as well. And I've really had to work on that. Like every time this situation comes up and it's really sad and it makes me really angry, and going like, well, hang on, what can I learn from this? And it's a very stoic approach. Like it's very much around that everything, no matter how good or bad in our life, can be used as fuel. Like it's helping me grow as a person. Although it's a bad situation, although it's incredibly sad, I would love nothing more than for it not to be happening this way. It is happening this way.
Mm.
It's a radical acceptance of that situation and going, well, what can I learn from it as a person, as a family member? How can I become better to either help that person or become a better person moving forward?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. When you're saying that out loud, it's like you, like when you reframe for and you get into, the addictions like side of personal view, and you start to feel for them on their side, it instantly changes you. But that's also, so you're doing two things. You're being empathetic to the person, but you're also helping yourself at the same time. You're getting yourself through that grief or through that, that situation much better than you are reacting or being angry, because you can only be angry for so long, and
Yeah.
then you'll instantly regret it if something ever happens. So it's like, how you may as well skip that part.
You may as well skip that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
But
where,
you're also entitled to being angry. Like, that's where I
yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah.
don't ever just, like, you can't just live your whole life and be like, so nice to everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine.
No.
You have your own boundaries, but look
Mhm.
after yourself first.
Look
And it's
after
always
yourself.
put your mask on first. But that is
Yeah.
helping you put your mask, like, that's you helping yourself in
It
the same
is.
sense of helping them.
And like I've felt both feelings. Like
Mm.
going back to this situation that we're talking about right now, like I've been consumed with anger. And it contributed to my insomnia. I was anxious. I was angry. I was drinking a lot. Like it was like looking back in hindsight, I didn't realize that it was coming from that, but it was like I can tell now that it was, because it's just how you deal with it.
Mm.
And when you slowly but surely, like this wasn't an overnight thing, but when you slowly but surely go like, hang on, like, you know, I've got to turn this anger into something positive. Again, like going back to that, like you feel the stress melt away. Now, it's not to say that it's not stressful.
No.
It is stressful, but there's a different kind of stress than when you're like in the thick of the stress and there's a situation happening and you're reacting to that right now, as opposed to just stewing on something and just being incredibly angry and just going like fucking. Ugh. That's chronic stress. That's gonna lead to disease. That's the sort of stress that will eat you alive. And that comes back to the people that become incredibly bitter over their lifetime. They let these things that might have happened to them, maybe someone treated them poorly, and they let it consume them and it eats them alive. As opposed to just taking it, accepting it, and going like, what can we learn from this?
Well,
And
I
then
think,
moving on.
yeah, I think the first time that I really experienced the power, like the superpower or whatever we're going to call it today, was dealing with infertility, like we're hitting our 5th year, and like it's you can be as sad as you want. Like, yeah, it's hard to deal with. It never happens at the moment. Like every month is just as hard as the last. The multiple miscarriages, like everything's hard.
Mm.
But to be able to, when I sat back and like, obviously you helped me get through it, but like when you sit back and you go, imagine even right now how grateful I am if I had kids, if I had the baby 5 years ago. What I know now is so different. Like it just blows my mind that it's like I know so much more now, and every month I am so grateful that I have learnt another month of education, of understanding, finding out who I am, finding out who you are, like so many more things that you can actually, I don't know how to say it. It's hard to say, but
It's there's two paths there, right? With what you're saying in this particular situation, the first path is every month being sad and being angry at the situation and being angry at the universe for like, why is this happening to us? Like everyone else just gets to have babies and like, duh. That contributes to more stress. More stress contributes to it becoming even harder to have a baby. And then when you do have a baby, you have been stressed this whole time and then you're angry and then you're not becoming a better version of yourself so that you're ultimately a better parent. The path that we're trying to take, which is not easy, which is looking at it like, well, every single month that it doesn't happen is another month that we learn a little bit more, we become a little bit better, which is ultimately going to make us better parents. This path is less stressful. It's probably more likely to result in an eventual pregnancy because obviously stress is like the biggest hindrance towards falling pregnant. Anxiety 100. And there's only two options.
and I think also it's helping me want to help others, which in the scheme of things, that's what we're here to do on this planet, is to ultimately help someone just a little bit further back than you. And I just find that if you can do that and if you can use that as a power rather than using it as a negative, then it'll really help you no matter what you're going through.
Yep.
Like just really, really, even if it's just a tiny little bit, but again, back to you're still entitled, like I'm still entitled to feel all the feelings with infertility. I'm not entitled to feel those things.
Yeah, I want to be like really clear here. This reframing things and looking at everything doesn't make you're not lying to yourself about the situation. You're not like becoming that overly positive person that's just like super annoying and it's like everything is great. It's not that. It's really looking at it like, yes, this sucks. This is the worst. But again, like you only have two options. You walk outside, you get hit by a car and lose a leg. You either let that completely and utterly ruin your life, or you go like, yes, this sucks. All right, what do I got to do? How do I become the best version of myself now? How do I get stronger? How do I start walking again? ASAP. And you always see you see it all the time. You're like these people that have the worst stuff happen to them, the worst accident. Maybe they're born with whatever, right? And yet they become these incredibly positive people that make a huge amount of change and like genuinely help millions of people's lives. It's like, what's the difference between that and the person who some traumatic thing happened and they just let it eat them up and they become whatever? It's because that person knows they only have two choices. One, they become the victim. It's the victim or the hero. Like that's what it is.
Well, it's
And
taking your power back. So it's like giving the things that are in your, and that's what stoicism's all about. And it's like the power that you have, you're taking it back, and that's within your driver's seat. And you're like, I'm taking control of this situation, and I'm going to be in the power. I'm not going to let the thing that happened to me take over me.
absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when you realize that and you get rid of the victim mentality and because if you think that the universe is out to get you, you've just had it bad, it's like, oh, I've just got, it's like you're one person against the universe, you are fucked. You're fucked. But if you go like, this sucks, I was born into this family and it's, we're poor, we've had trauma, like whatever that situation might be. And you go like, but I've got the power to get out of this. I've got the power to learn, upskill myself, the way that I view the situation. Like that is all within my power. Now you're in control. And that's the best position to be in.
Well, I feel like a lot of people do that with money, right? Like, I think people go, "Oh, yeah, everything costs so much. Every inflation's getting us," and they'll just sit there and whinge about money, and then just stay poor instead of looking at it like, no, okay, money's going up. How can I earn more? Instead of just like, yes, it takes more time. Yes, you've got to learn something on the side, but like, it's just again reframing yourself and go, okay, we need X this week. How can I earn that? What can I learn that could possibly give me an extra $100 a week? Like,
Yep. It's a similar situation to, and we could talk about this all day, but we'll keep giving examples because I think it's really helpful for someone listening. It's like you could look at it like, I'm not going to start a business because we're about to go into a recession and that's a really bad time to start. It's like, okay, then don't ever start, stay doing what you're doing, and then eventually become extremely unhappy.
rely on the government.
Rely on the government. Or you could go and you could actually look at this on like the Fortune 500 list and you can go, a lot of these companies started in the Great Depression. Why are they the ones that did really well? And it's like, because if you can start in a depression, if you can start in a recession, then you can fucking thrive when the sun's shining and everything is everything's booming. Maybe it's the best time to start a business because you learn the skills that are gonna, because like it's like when the crypto boom was happening and it's like it didn't matter what you did, you put money in any coin and you made money and you're like, holy shit, this is fucking great. It's like you don't learn anything from that. We learn everything the hard way from that. We didn't learn any, like we learned from when it crashed and we're like, all right, shit, what do we do here? It's like what are the lessons that we can take from that?
What should we have done?
What
Yeah.
should we have done? You don't learn anything from when everything's sun is shining. So again, it's like maybe it's the best time to start a business. Maybe it's the best time to, same thing again. I'm too stressed. I'm too busy to start, this diet plan or this transformation challenge, whatever that might be. It's like, well, do you think you're going to be busy again at some point in the future? Probably. So maybe if you learn to do it now while you are busy, then you'll be able to be resilient and work through it when you're ultimately going to be busy again in the
Well,
future.
yeah, you learn to live under budget restraints, and you'll learn early on if the business isn't able to survive under a budget, then it's not going to survive no matter how big you get. That's what some people don't realize is if your margins aren't right early in business, with one product, having 100 and selling 100 isn't going to make it any worse. It's actually going to make it
Just makes the problem
better.
bigger.
So,
Yeah. They feel like they're like, oh, numbers are going up. It's like,
I'm earning
not.
way more. It's like, yep, you're now in more debt.
You're actually going backwards. Yeah. You wrote down here in the notes something about like another way to view reframing, which I thought was really good, is self-care, which is like, and I'll let you take this one away, but it was more so around like busy mums taking time for themselves and reframing that sort of situation.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy that 1 in 3 people instantly feel guilty for taking time for themselves. So, and what I mean by that is just half an hour a day for yourself.
Really?
1 in 3 people instantly feel too guilty to take half an hour for themselves. So, picture we live this whole planet, our whole life, and you literally can't take half an hour for yourself because you feel so guilty.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start to help people to realize we need to reframe that. Like, we need to start addressing that for one, but for two is like, look at that half an hour. What you don't realize is that half an hour that you give yourself is a domino effect for everyone else. You're actually doing everyone else a favor by giving yourself that half an hour.
Yeah. If you actually take the time, you're like, all right, I feel really guilty. It's like I've got the kids, I'm super busy. It's like I'm so selfish for wanting to take 30 minutes to run off and go to the gym. It's like, how could I do that and getting that, as they say, mum guilt or whatever. But looking at it, reframing that as going like, well, do I want to be like the best version of myself for my kids? Am I going to end up a little bit resentful if like a year from now I haven't gone to the gym once and I've let myself go and it's something that I really value? And it's like the answer is probably yes. So in that scenario, going to the gym, taking that 30 minutes, being selfish is probably the best thing is the most selfless thing that you could do.
Yeah. So the example that I was listening to was he's a personal trainer, right? And so he teaches people to exercise for a living, obviously. So his biggest thing was he felt guilty training himself. Because he was so busy and he was training so many other people, he thought that every time he had to go to the gym, also too, because you're running your own solo business, he had to take content. He had to make sure he's filming. He had to make sure, oh, should I have a client in that slot instead of myself? And then he realized the reason that he wanted to start this business, he can't even now do that half an hour because he can't without feeling guilty, if that makes sense. So, like, that one thing that he started his whole business for and not doing it, he was cranky, he was losing clients, he was not as like cognitive and straightforward thinking, and he wasn't helping his people as best as he could within the business. And the reason that he started was going to the gym. Like,
Yep.
that's where it all started, was going to the gym, and he
Mhm.
learned how to go to the gym properly, and it all goes from there. But
Yep.
you don't realize it's this big cycle of just half an hour giving it to yourself.
Since we've been, you know, running our business, that's something I've definitely felt, which is like anytime that I'm not working, I have this slight underlying guilt that I should be working. I should be doing more. I should be, even on the weekends when it's like, all right, we're going to actually relax, maybe put a movie on or something like that. And it's like, but, fucking hustle culture. It's like you see
Yeah.
these incredibly successful people, they're doing like 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. And it's like, that's what you got to do. You got to grind, 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 grind. And it's like, yes, of course, there is that element of that. But it's like, I've been there. I've felt the feelings of burnout. And that's not helpful for anyone. It's not helpful for the business. It's not helpful for me or for you. So in that scenario, taking the time to actually recover and actually bring my stress levels down and relax so that I can come into the week feeling super refreshed and I can actually be productive. And in that scenario, view that frame, it's like that's the best thing that I could do for the business in that situation. So I think that's a really important thing is like again, like reframing that sort of thing. If you are the sort of person who does feel guilty for either training or, you know,
Mum guilt
mum
or
guilt, or you're a business owner and you're like, I should just be working, 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 reframe that. Maybe it's the most productive thing that you can do.
maybe you're doing this to be a better mum.
Exactly.
Do you want to be more present and actually like get rid of your shit and sit down and be present with your kids instead of rushing off? You didn't realize you've been on your phone for half an hour while your kid's trying to like skateboard out the front and get your attention and he falls over and then that's your fault because you're on your phone. Like, you don't realize the implications behind it, if that makes sense. And you'll never notice either. Like, it's never gonna go, oh, that was because of that. But
Yep.
it is a compounding thing, and it's
Yep.
just half an hour a day for yourself.
Exactly.
And even the only time I really noticed it was we just had obviously Christmas break, and I literally pushed myself to go sauna and I did like 2 or 3 a week. And obviously you don't have your phone, you don't have anything, and you're in there and you're just breathing. And it's like, I literally lost weight that week. And that's
Mm.
like my number one goal. And you don't realize that and I ate more and everything like that. It was just relaxing.
Brought your stress down.
Yeah.
Anxiety 96. The big point that we wanted to really push with this is that this, in my opinion, this is a superpower. And when you become aware of it and when you do adopt that growth mindset, it's really powerful. You'll become less stressed within yourself. If you do view everything as a learning opportunity, everything is a learning opportunity, and you do become a better version of yourself, to, not to be cliche. And the last point that I want to sort of touch on this, which is really hitting home just how powerful the mind is in this situation, is kind of like how I reframed sleep when I was dealing with insomnia. And, like I cornered myself into this position of, stressing about sleep, trying to get 8 hours and doing everything within my power to do that, and giving myself insomnia. And then that one video that I watched from Alex Hormozy, which is like, maybe you don't need 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you shouldn't be tracking your sleep. Maybe you shouldn't do all of the routines and stress on it and blah, 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 blah. And I've told this story before, but it was like after that night, it's like although I still deal with sleep issues, it's like my insomnia that I dealt with for 2 years straight went away and never came back like it had. And that was just a reframe. That was viewing it from a different angle, and that had real, tangible, physiological benefits to me and my health. Like, that is that just shows like just how powerful
Like you
the
didn't do
mind
anything
is.
different.
I didn't do anything different.
Yeah.
All I did was just think about it differently and just view it through a different lens. The same as when I was really dealing with sleep issues and I was sort of training for the marathon and I slept like absolute shit, right? I slept like shit and I'm like, fuck me, like this run is just going to be the worst. I had to run like 28 kilometers, get out there and I'm running it. Legs are heavy, I feel super drained, I feel fatigued, and I'm just running. And like over and over in my head, I'm just going like, this is the worst. This is fucking sucks. I only slept 4 hours. This sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And then again, caught myself. I'm going like, well, hang on. I'm probably gonna sleep like shit the night before the marathon. Like that's pretty guaranteed. It's like you're excited, you're nervous. So it's like maybe this is the perfect opportunity to learn to practice running while you're feeling a little bit, sleep deprived, while you're feeling fatigued.
Let's see how good I can get
Let's
this.
see how good I can do. Like this is great. Like this is the perfect thing. Like I need to do this. I need to practice this. Instantly. Like I felt the fucking stress and I just felt energy come in. I felt the energy come through my body. I had a spring in my step after that. It was night and day. And that's kind of like the power of reframing, I think.
Yeah, and the reason we give so many examples is I feel that everyone's penny drops differently. Like you just have to literally listen to it. Like, and I think that self-improvement really is that in itself, right? Everyone has their own version or likes to listen to who they talk to and all those sort of things. Like listen to who drops the penny for them. But yeah, everyone finds it within their own way. And if you can the biggest thing you can take away today is just that little moment, testing that little moment, even if it is like, I'm open the fridge and you're like, okay, but you're trying to diet and then you're like, I've opened the fridge and now this is the opportunity that I'm going to use to shut the fridge and not eat anything and like reframe it in a way that I'm going to do that for me. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but just those little tiny moments are so important.
Well, one last example that I did say to you once, which is like you were really hungry, trying to lose weight, and then it was like you were getting a little bit annoyed about the fact that you were so hungry. And it's like, well, think of it this way. If you're not hungry at all, chances are you're probably not losing weight, right? So if you want to lose weight and you need to get hungry to lose weight, isn't this the perfect thing? Like, isn't this exactly what you're chasing? That feeling of hunger? Because obviously you're in a deficit, then obviously you're going to be losing weight. And then again, it's like, it's not like it goes away, but it just becomes a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, like then I was like, oh, so this is the exact feeling I need to feel. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually losing weight right now.
Yeah.
So
my
then
body
I'm
is
like,
eating itself.
Eating itself. Woo!
Awesome. Yeah. But yeah. So anything else on reframing? I think we've kind of really hit the nail on the head. As usual, we will. There was a really good podcast that Andrew Huberman did, which was on adopting a growth mindset. He goes into this sort of thing a lot deeper, obviously goes into the research behind everything and just adopting this whole growth mindset. We'll link it in the show notes below, but I highly recommend watching that if you're the sort of person who wants to go a little bit deeper. It's super interesting.
Yeah, it really helps you get through, especially if you're going through something really traumatic or family troubles or just life, everyday life, even anxiety 100. It really helps to just go use that as fuel or how can I change? The easiest one for me is like thinking of the other person, getting in the other. What if that person was you? What if you were going through that? Or what if they're having a bad day? And then you can't be angry at that person anymore?
Yeah.
And it just instantly dissipates.
It
straight
dissipates,
away.
and then you're not angry. You're less stressed. It's better for everyone. You're less resentful or reactive. It's just so can't stress it enough.
And another one is what we always say is, what would your 80-year-old self say? Like that's another way. And then that also helps. Like, would you care about that right now?
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
most
so get
likely
over
not.
it.
Zoom out. That's another reframe. Like it's like I'm really stressed on this one tiny little thing. It's like hang on a sec.
The storm in the teacup.
I'm the storm in the teacup, and it's like, well, hang on.
Look at the teacup like this and be like,
yeah, or like just
look
remember.
at that shit show.
Yeah, it's a shit show in there. But like again, like remembering, it's like, hang on, let's just zoom out here. It's like we are literally a speck of dust on a blue rock flying through space in an infinite void of just trillions and trillions and trillions of stars. And it's like, should I really be this stressed about this? Like, we're meaningless.
But he said, she said,
She said, and it's like, we are meaningless in the best way possible. So just remembering that.
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, let's into the next segment. I haven't shown you this yet, but I come across this on Twitter, right? And I was like, oh, I really wanted to get your take on it. And
it's called X now.
No, I can't get on board that.
We're such a boomer now attitude.
It's still like twitter.com though, right? Like it's like,
yeah,
it's so it's still half Twitter. Okay, so I seen this pop up on Twitter on X, and it was a photo that Connor McGregor put up of, holding his like newborn baby, right? And this is this tweet went viral.
I'm just reading. What the? Wait, what does it say?
So this is a tweet.
What do we got? We got a hate
viral.
womaner.
So
I mean, a hate manner.
A hate womaner. And it says it's a picture of Conor McGregor holding his newborn baby, and it says
like minutes old,
like just was born.
Yeah,
just was born. And this woman called Larissa says, "What the fuck are men doing this for? Sorry, you're not the nurturers. You're not soft and comforting for a baby, especially not him," referring to Conor McGregor. "You can't feed them. It's fucking creepy." Isn't that just the fucking worst?
Larissa.
Yeah, Larissa. You need to, like you do see this kind of, this outlook a lot more now. And whether or not they've just got a voice because of social media.
Well, that just brings it back to what we were talking about when we first started. And that was like, do men get hate? And look at that. There it is.
Yeah.
As much. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, but from a woman.
From a woman. Yeah. True.
I wanted to get like your take on this, because in one light, one of the best things that I think has come from this generation of parents, and this is just from a viewer's perspective, we're not parents yet, but like, men are definitely more present now, like especially more than like, our, the boomers and that sort of age group. Like, dads weren't as present. They were always sort of working and stuff like that. Not saying that men aren't working now, but they have shown now that men are like the most present that they've ever been with kids. And I personally think that's like,
great.
That's a great thing. And then you got people like this that are like saying like, it's fucking creepy. It's like, why you can't actually feed the baby. Like, it's like what the...
For one, Larissa, babies need attunement from both sides. Like, they need that. They need to understand, and they instantly, because they can't see, they instantly go for smells, heartbeat, and like actions, like
and touch, and
touch.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I always say to my friends, like, make sure at like, mostly men, I'm like, take your shirt off, make sure the baby's on your chest. Like, it's literally the number one thing to do.
Yeah, he's doing it.
Yeah,
his shirt's
he's
off.
doing the
his
thing.
Shirt's
like,
off, and the baby is sitting on his left pec on his heart. Like, it's like that.
That is number one thing to do.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to get your take on it, because I know that you've this is something that you're extremely passionate about. You've researched it a lot. And
so the first 75 hours with your baby is the most important. So the mother needs to obviously prioritize, like, they always try and take the baby away from you at that time. I don't know why, and like let you rest. It's like, no. Make sure you say, do not touch my baby. I need to hold it, and make sure that you and the father, if you have that available, to have them on your chest that whole time, because they're learning who you are. They're growing, and they're smelling. It's so new to them. They need to have that
it
instant.
It is the newest thing.
Yeah. They need to have that attachment to you straight away.
Yeah.
And if you can have the full 75 hours, like, you're so much further ahead than any other like parents.
It's so interesting. And it's like,
but I don't get why would she even be angry?
Why is it creepy?
Why is it?
It's kind of like, I've heard this before, and I can't remember where I heard this. It was like a news story. I'm not too sure, but it was like a dad was in the baby change room, changing his baby's nappy, and like one of the women in there was like, "You can't be in here,
Mm.
like that's creepy," and it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? It's insane.
Insane. Like, yeah, I can't understand why she would get. You're not the nurturers. You're not so. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I can't even.
it's a lot, isn't it? I wanted to sort of see because it's got 380,000 likes. So I
Wow.
don't know whether that's
No,
people.
people would scroll and like his photo and not realize it's her writing it
Yeah,
off. Do you
maybe.
reckon?
I just want to sort of see what a lot of the sentiment was in the comments. So actually, that's wrong. Skin to skin calms the baby, father and mother. It's the way the baby starts understanding their parents. Larissa, I'm assuming, doesn't have children or gave birth without the father in the room. Yeah, exactly. Um, oh
She,
no.
she closed her account.
Oh, she closed her account.
And
uh,
like, there's a high chance that she's never met him. Obviously, like, why would she have so much hate towards him?
yeah, it's just like that's
It's
just the
so
nature of the
weird. It
internet,
doesn't
right?
make
It's
any
just like
sense.
why go out of your way to. But I mean, she probably got what she wanted, right? Which is like lots of engagement,
Yeah.
lots of going
No,
viral.
she closed her account.
She closed her account. She got a little bit too much. Uh,
Wow, that's crazy. Thanks for showing me that.
no worries, no worries.
Just gave me some more, fuel.
Yeah, exactly. But like even going back to like what we were saying before, like it's like that stuff that you just said there again, like about like what you've learned with the first 75 hours with the baby. It's like you didn't know that a year ago.
No.
So it's like if we'd had a baby a year ago, maybe we would have missed out on that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again just coming back to
Reframing.
reframing and everything like that.
And gratitude. Like
Yeah,
gratitude helps you get through the hard things as well. Like how hard gratitude is when you're cranky.
it's the hardest thing. That's what I mean
Sometimes
when I
I'll
say
say,
like it's easier to be cranky.
sometimes I'll say to you, give me 3 things, and you're like, I don't have any. I don't
Well,
have
you did the
any.
same to me.
Yeah.
You did the same. But it is it that's what I said before is it's way harder to be grateful and to look at everything through the lens of a growth mindset. Like it's not easy, but it is a muscle that gets easier and easier. Which is why when you see people that like when you see like Gary Vee and like everything he says is from the lens of gratitude, and it's like that is just from like doing it over and over and over again.
Strengthening that muscle.
Yeah, like what fires together wires together. And it's like you've just created that neural connection so strong now that now you look at everything through the lens of gratitude. And I think that that's a really important thing. It's just like, which is, I think that's why it's so important to start with maybe just trying to remember once a day to go like, well, what am I grateful for? Because it's like, yes, there is that benefit of like, in that moment feeling grateful and the benefits that has on us physically and physiologically and mentally. But it's a rep. It's a rep. You're firing that a little bit more, which is why, like, I've worked with people in the past, I've worked with clients, and they're like, I don't have anything to be grateful for. And it's like, well, let's work this out together. It's like, how small can we start?
Do you have a roof over your head?
Do you have a roof over your head? Yes. Let's just start with that, and let's just work on that.
So a lot of people don't have that.
A lot of people don't have that, and I think it is going back to with gratitude. I've fallen into this trap before, which is like, yeah, I write it down. You don't really feel it. That takes practice. Like it takes practice to like put yourself and like really think about it. You start feeling it in your stomach. I feel it's like when you're genuinely grateful, you get like a feeling in your stomach, and you feel that sort of wash over you. It takes practice, and I'm not perfect at that at all. Like I'm actually not very good at gratitude. It's just a rep though. I gotta do more reps.
Yeah, well, also on that, the negative and positive feelings. Like I learned the other day in a breathwork class, if you sit there like this and frown with your head down, try breathe. Try do a deep breath. It's in your chest, right?
Yeah,
Which is
100%.
instant stress. Where if you sit and open your eyes as far as you can, instantly it's in your belly.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So it's literally, if you're sitting there cranky and like,
Yep.
because that you generally get that face when you're angry or upset or not doing too well. You're not sitting in the best position. But if you can even just start with that, is just open your eyes and then you can feel it instantly in your belly where it's meant to breathe. Like it's so important.
Yep.
And just like we do 25,000, is it 25,000 breaths a day?
It's a lot.
And if you can turn some of them around, like, imagine if you're doing all of them like that. It's so bad for you. That's where the chronic stress comes from.
Yep.
So if you can just at least turn, when you think of it, even when you're sitting at the computer working and you're really not enjoying your job or whatever, just at least physically turn it around.
Yeah, and that's going, this is where like the physiological affects the mental and the mental affects the physiological. Like it's like it goes both ways. And if you are feeling really, like you're saying, like really stressed and really angry and your posture's really bad, just going like, well, I'm still angry, but I'm just going to fix my posture. Just going to take in more of the world around me. I'm not going to be so zoned in on this thing. I'm just going to I can see more of the peripherals around me. I'm going to sit up a little bit straighter, take a breath, and then all of a sudden your mental state gets better. And then same with thing. It's like if you, again, like going back to, if we just look at everything, something through the lens of like, I'm really stressed. This is a really shitty situation. Hang on, what can I learn from this? And then all of a sudden you did that mentally, you'll feel your body loosen up and breathe better. It goes both ways.
And if also that's where most traumas come from is when it did happen, you didn't sit there in the moment. Say something happened to you and someone was really mean and you're really upset. Sit there and feel the upset for a second. Give yourself that moment. Feel upset. Be upset. Why am I upset? What is triggering me? How do I feel in this moment? And just be sad. If you don't do that when you do have the thing, then it becomes a trauma.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to feel that. Let's just shove it down. And we all know what happens then.
Yeah.
It's like you shove it down enough, and then boom, it turns into an explosion that's, as we say, it's about pasta, but it's not really about the pasta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what are we really blowing up
Why
about
did they
here?
blow up about the pasta boiling on the stove? Like,
Yeah, it's not about the pasta.
No.
It's about the thing that we've been pushing down and down and down. That's such a good point. So yeah, I mean, that's another technique that I have learned, which again is something that I don't use enough, but when I do it, I feel less reactive. I feel more stressed. I feel less stressed. And that is, like you were saying, like, don't not feel the feeling. Label it in your mind. It's like, I am sad right now. I'm angry. I'm jealous. I'm envious. I'm happy. Like,
what emotion are you feeling? Like,
what emotion am I feeling? And it's like just being aware of that. And oftentimes when you sit with it and you're like, I am angry right now, but like, think about it. And what you'll find is like it's known as like metacognition. It's thinking about thinking. And it's like rather than the thoughts just controlling us and then us becoming a slave to our thoughts and just being angry and reactive and blah, 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 going like when you do think about it like that and you just label it in your head, you're like, I am angry right now. Think about it, feel it. It actually creates a bit of space between you and the reaction that's ultimately going to come from that anger or that sadness or that jealousy. And all of a sudden, we're not as reactive. We're thinking about what we're going to say before we say the thing that's going to piss the partner off or whatever that might be. And again, it comes back to being a little less stressed, a little less reactive, and then ultimately just not being so all the time.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What are you nerding out about this week? You got your marathon back on?
I got the marathon back on. Yeah. So got that. I've made the switch in my head. This is same old story, right? It's like ran a marathon last year. Told myself never gonna stop running. I really want to keep this up, but I think it's such a maybe it's a me thing, but maybe it's just a human thing. It's like as soon as I didn't have something that I was working towards again, the running just went from like 4 times a week to 3 times to like maybe once or twice a week to then once. And then I'm like, oh shit, I haven't ran in a month. And it's like, did it like, we always do that. So it's like that's what I'm kind of like nerding out this week is like making that switch in my head again, booking a marathon and just making that. And again, it's like, it's the same situation, But now, like I was running every now and then, and the runs were a bit of a drag. Wasn't really working towards anything. Wasn't feeling that feeling of progress again. And although I'm not as fit as I was 6 months ago in terms of like running fitness, got that excitement back again. It's like I'm working towards something, and it's like even though I again like I found myself saying this the other day on the run. I'm like, oh god, like I'm so much less fit than I was 6 months ago. I should have just kept running. I could have been so much further ahead right now. Hang on, how can I reframe this? Now I get to feel that feeling of progress again. Like there was such an exciting time when I went from like not being able to run at all to running a marathon, and it's like every week was like progress, progress, progress. I get to feel that feeling again. Like it's great. I love it. What are you nerding out on?
At the moment, I'm still reading the book Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate.
Yep.
However you say his name. Pretty much it's about ADD and ADHD. And the more I study, the more I realize I potentially may have it. Just all the tendencies I've never felt so heard in a book. So my goal has been to try and work with that type of brain, understanding that that is my brain, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing, but it's not a bad thing.
It's just a
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difference in brain. You've literally got a different brain, and learning where it come from and how it happened. And I've been working with it. Like last week, I'm ensured that I got to the gym. I did all my gym. I did all my walks. I did it. Like I'm actually
But
ticking
like
off more things.
what did you change in your mind or your schedule to now be ticking those things off, hitting your quota for the gym for the week or whatever that might be?
So attaching it to something that I do like, something that I don't like. I don't really love the gym, so I attach it to something I do like. I like going for my coffee and my walk with Daisy. I attach it to that, and I've been doing it. So it's like, and then making sure when I do feel like going to the gym, I just drop everything and go. Like for some reason with our type of brain, it just, if you feel like doing it, do it. Like if you feel like going for a 10-minute walk, just go. Otherwise, if you plan for a 10-minute walk, you're not going to go.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also on the other side of things with work is like just really, if I don't feel like doing something, just do something else. And then you'll just naturally come back to doing the jobs
Right.
later because you know that you got to do it anyway. But if you really don't feel like doing it, just push it. Just don't.
Just don't. And what about like the actual like gym sessions themselves? Do you have to keep them interesting? Do you have to keep them like novel and change things up pretty regularly?
Yes, I've got a new program which is like keeping me, and I'm really enjoying it, which is good. And I'm actually having to research what exercises are what, so it's like keeping me really engaged, learning what it is, and tracking progress and things like that, which is helpful.
But you would say like the biggest thing has been attaching it to something that you enjoy?
Yep.
And not just like pushing it to later in the day?
Yeah, by itself, I won't go.
Yeah.
Where if I attach it to something that I do enjoy, and so I have a walk, come home, have something to eat, and just go, and then don't. And again, not letting that guilt of I should be working. I put the gym first and go. Then I've just felt way better.
That's so interesting. Do you reckon you'll get tested for the?
Yeah, I think I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to put that on my to-do.
I think that's such a good thing to, whether or not you're the sort of person that, whatever it might be, maybe you fall a little on the spectrum, maybe you have ADD or ADHD or whatever that might be. Like, I think it is very, not that I fall on either of those spectrums, I don't think. But like, I really realized this last year or two, like how important routine and systems are to me. Complete opposite to you, but like, that's just the way my brain works. It's like, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And it's like, all right, well, how can I engineer my life to have those things? Like I've realized that like if I don't have a system in place to do the laundry or whatever that might be, it just starts piling up. And it's like once you start learning about how your individual unique brain works, it's like then you can start working with it. It's not like when it just feels like you're just always pushing shit uphill, and it's like, God.
Well, I was actually getting quite depressed on myself because I was obviously comparing to you that is very regimented and routine based, and I was like, why am I not like this? And I was just like quite getting, and then I started getting frustrated with myself that I can't stick to things, and then, like, everything kept sticking out, like, I was like, "What's wrong with me? Like, am I just dumb?" Like, I just couldn't understand why I was doing these certain things, and now that I've been reading and learning and understanding that we just do things a different way, we just go around about it a different way, then, it's really been helping, and I'm not angry at myself, and I'm not, if I do just start doing the laundry in the middle of something else, then it's okay. It's just that's who you are. That's what, and it's just really been helping, if that makes sense.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, look, if you made it this far, we really appreciate you. If you could do us the biggest favor in the world, if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're listening, leave us a review. The more that we can grow this podcast and this channel, the bigger that we can make the things that we do, and eventually we want to start getting guests on the things like that. So, if you could do that for us, it would mean the absolute world. And with that being said, we'll see you next week.
Bye.